Good evening and welcome to News on the SLBC with me, Kojo Kwafu. Coming up in News Hour tonight, the Law Department of Furabe College launches its first internal moot court competition. The technical pillar head of DECOVAC, Connor, says active cases surge will engage on massive screening and testing. And Freetown City Administrative Complex car park is hoped to decongest perennial traffic in the Central Business District. Details are coming up shortly, but first our coronavirus preventive message.
You see how this woman wearing mask? Now so you say for wear your mask. If for cover your nose and you mouth all time. No use mask way small for you. No take the mask and put under your chin. Not to chin guard. No wear your mask and left your nose na door. Because now you know small the virus they pass for enter your body. Where you wear mask, if you cover your nose and your mouth, take go under your chin. If you not wear and so, it no go protect you. So wear your mask fine all time.
The Freetown City Administrative Complex car park is hoped to ease the perennial traffic congestion in the Central Business District. As Mahama Suba reports, road traffic congestion in the Central Business District has been a significant hindrance to especially economic activities.
This is Freetown, a small but very busy city on the west coast of Africa. As in other cities, hundreds of vehicles flood the city center every day, where most business and other transactions are done.
One big sector where they bring economics in the country.
This sector is one that generates income in our country. And it will help improve on the socio-economic standards. And if we have free flow of traffic, wherein the movement of people is faster, then there will be more improvement in the country's revenue generation. And that is what we believe in as transport partners.
More economy in the country. That is what we believe as a transport sector or transport partners.
But there is very limited or no organized parking location. Hence, the narrow roads have been made narrower to either one-way traffic or have totally been cut off from vehicular passage. That's because there is hardly any building within this Central Business District area with its own car park space. Some vehicle owners are even making the situation worse by abandoning their automobiles on busy streets for hours and sometimes days or weeks, ignoring the discomforts to other road users, especially pedestrians. These men have taken advantage of the situation to generate income for themselves. They are their own employers in this regard.
We don't have a normal price. Some vehicle owners will give us 10,000, some will give us 5,000, and others will even give us 2,000, and we still appreciate it. We don't harass people. Where we have placed our tires is vacant, so we have occupied those places. We are doing this business because we are jobless.
This demarcated space come in the form of an annual subscription with a fee of about 2 million leones to the city. President Bio had acknowledged the inconveniences of such congestion to many people. Traffic congestion, he had said, diminishes productivity, increases the cost of commuting through increased fuel and operating cost, as well as having environmental and health implications. This problem was why he recently launched a $50 million urban transport improvement project supported by the World Bank.
They can make the change the transport sector.
The project will bring a change in the transport sector. It will give us the opportunity to change our parking system within the municipality, especially around the marketplaces.
The parking system, market, like we try to move, we go to London.
This is a 15-story building which is still under construction to be completed by November this year. Attached to it is a 6-story car park space which could however accommodate only about 100 vehicles, a novelty in Sierra Leone. The city engineer Aruna Sowa said any use of it by members of the public other than staff and visitors of the council will be paid for.
Some of this office to the central business district have been crying for spaces like the Bank of Sierra Leone, Commercial Bank and other public offices. They've been crying, they've been coming to the City Council to make sure we give them lots of plots, probably 2-3 or so. So if we have a space that can accommodate up to 100, I'm sure that will help in minimizing in one way or the other. Previously we have a unit called a street parking unit. We had a standard, and then I think we have to revisit just that standard, and it is going to be an affordable amount that probably everybody who comes around town will be able to pay.
Even though this situation is very disturbing, it has become a means of surviving for many youth within the municipality.
The first internal moot court competition on Frabe College campus has been officially launched in Freetown. The said competition, which will be based on Africa, human and people's rights, would contribute to the participants' intellectual and professional journey. Joseph Ture witnessed the event on FBC campus and now reports.
One major challenge law students have faced over the years is having limited or no time for the practical courtroom sessions before migrating to law school. This was believed to have had negative impact on law students' performance at law school. The Nasiruddin Tijan Cole Moot Court competition, which would commence in less than 24 hours, is anticipated to be a right step to change the narratives in producing vibrant law students amidst other developments. This is the exact courtroom setting for the Moot Court competition that commences tomorrow. It is a platform that will give participants the opportunity to develop their advocacy skills, as the practical aspect of student reading law has been a very challenging issue over the years. For the President Law Society FBC, Mohamed Wuriba, the story is a practical one.
Across the globe, in all law faculties and departments, moot competitions, or rather mooting, is an integral culture of the faculty of law. And mooting has been perceived in this part of the world as an extracurricular activity, which to itself is policy. Mooting, or rather moot competitions, are curricular activities which are integral part of the curriculum of law.
Judges of the Supreme Court of the Judicature will preside over the participants' hearings during the competition. And what does this mean for participants?
It is also going to enhance our oral skills when we shall have the combined skills of this part. I've learned a lot as a person, developed my skills and looking for the best. It has actually been a very exhausting time. Trying to put together a lot of ideas through visiting legal notes and journals in order for us to bring up something substantial tomorrow for the bench. And it has been tough, but thank God that we have actually put things together, and like tomorrow we'll actually try to convey to the bench.
We see it as a groundbreaking event, and we think it's helpful for students of law because it will aid our legal development and how we appreciate things or concepts of law and apply them duly in our submissions.
The launch of the first internal moot court competition was organized by the Institute for Legal Research and Advocacy Justice and Law Society FBC. The moot court was set up in honor of the first Director of Public Prosecution, late Nasiruddin Tijan Cole. SLBC, Joseph Ture reporting.
The District Emergency Response Center, Dikovac in Kono District, has engaged religious leaders, international organizations, civil society representatives, and other community stakeholders ahead of the active case surge across the 14 chiefdoms in Kono District. According to the technical pillar head at Dikovac, Dr. Gerald Young, the active case surge would engage on massive screening and testing, identifying the level of community transmission and provide responses to prevent further spread of the virus in the district. Dauda Kamar filed this report from Kono.
The process will engage massive screening and testing across the 14 chiefdoms to verify the level of community transmission that has taken place and provide adequate responses to the affected communities. According to the district's medical officer, who doubles as the technical pillar head Dikovac, Dr. Gerald Young, the active case surge was designed by the Directorate of Health Emergency and Security, Ministry of Health and Sanitation, in consultation with the National Emergency Response Center. He called on stakeholders, including the paramount chiefs, to support and be in the frontline campaign during the surge. The District Coordinator Emergency Response Center, Dikovac in Kono District, Sir Samuel Sam, lauded the venture in keeping the community clean and reducing the infection rate. He commended the people for their tremendous support in eradicating the coronavirus since the index case in the Kono District. Samuel Sam appealed to humanitarian organizations to provide funds and other logistical support for the active case surge. The operational pillar head, Dikovac, Lieutenant Colonel Pesima, said the operation wing was key in the operation that is set to roll out.
Following a series of calls and concerns from the public over the closure of some water packaging companies for substandard quality, the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Water Resources last week met with the Water Regulatory Commission and the Association of Bottling and Packeters. The meeting came after the Commission had told the committee that out of over 150 water producing companies, only about 20% was registered legally with the Commission and had gone through hygienic procedures to do such business in Sierra Leone. But the Water Bottling and Packeters Association seemed dissatisfied with their rating by the government. The Public Relations Officer of the Water Bottle and Packeters Association, Max Jallo, spoke to Kimama Koli in this interview to express their concern.
I partly agree with the claim.
To what extent?
Because the public perception is saying that EWLC has, given our members have licensed 15%, but the public perception is saying that also what they are saying on television or discussing is that they've banned all the other water companies. That's not correct. It's 15% of the producers, water service providers that have licensed with the commissions, according to them.
So 50% that have licensed are supposed to be the one operating. So don't you think 15% is a small amount?
Yeah, actually, the survey, all of us did it together. The Standard Bureau, the Union, EWRC itself, Ministry of Sanitation. We believe the percentage would have gone more than that. But it's like they came up with that. I still have a report here with me. But they are the sole body to regulators. I think that's why we are on the drawing board, is to move everything forward.
Okay, so you said the percentage is supposed to be a little bit higher than what
higher. Yeah.
So give us the statistics.
The statistics is like something like more than 50%, because you and I know that before a decade or more ago, we used to have these waterborne diseases, cholera, diarrhea, and the like. Because of this industry have reduced that drastically. So if we did a survey collectively and a search report came up, to us, we partly agree with it.
Now, you are aware that there is a proliferation of unauthorized companies that are operating.
Yeah, the authority and the sole body or the statutory is left with the commission.
But you are aware as an association?
Yeah, we are, but like I say, it's left with the commission because we've been actually working together, the collaboration, as you heard this morning.
Working together, what has been your own role?
Our main role is to sanitize the industry, provide clean, safe drinking water to the public.
Directors from the public and private sectors have been trained on effective corporate governance system. Lead Facilitator and Chief Executive Officer of Africa Corporate Governance Advisory Services, Karugo Gata, said such forum would enhance sustainable creation of wealth in Sierra Leone. Joseph Toure has more.
The certification of these trainees was a move determined to usher them in making a difference in the corporate world. They have been through a 5-day thorough training on corporate governance. They resolved, among other things, on expanding the knowledge gained from this exercise to their colleagues at the various institutions they were drawn from in order to boost institutional capacity. Lead facilitator of the Africa Corporate Governance Advisory Services, Karugo Gatama, said countries where similar venture on corporate governance has been undertaken have experienced economic turnaround.
If the people apply corporate governance, we shall eradicate corruption. We shall ensure that they seek the absolute most end results for the people of Sierra Leone. So the challenge is not just those we train. We normally tell people, can they sit in their boardrooms or in their offices and say, I am here making a difference, not just making a living.
Chairman Board of Directors of the National Telecommunications Commission, Madiana Samba, described the session as very significant to the human capital development of the country.
It's about also changing the landscape of Sierra Leone. It's about being accountable. It's about putting systems and structures in place so that we are able to actually reach the height of excellence by competing and being able to have ethical culture in our different organizations. So it's very, very wide, it's very broad, and it's very significant. If we want to reduce poverty in Sierra Leone and build a human development capital, we need to ensure that we invest in people, we invest in culture of organizations, and we ensure that we eradicate or eliminate corruption and bad practices.
The participants were highly appreciative of the process. SLBC, Joseph Toure reporting.
The Member of Parliament for Constituency 123, Honorable Lehadi Al-Hadi, has handed over the rehabilitated Ginger Hall and Mount Orel Community Health Center worth millions of leones to residents of the two communities. The health center, which was the only public health facility serving the Ginger Hall and Mount Orel communities, was in a deplorable condition before Honorable Al-Hadi's intervention. Ibrahim Samara reports.
Residents of the communities, including the community health officer, lauded Honorable Lehadi Al-Hadi for rehabilitating the health center, which they say was one of the community concerns. The health center is strategic as it serves two major densely populated communities in the constituency, Ginger Hall and Mount Orel. Built by Plan International in the 1990s, the Ginger Hall and Mount Orel Community Health Center over the past years has been in a deplorable condition. Lacked equipment, shortage of essential drugs, and limited accommodation to contain the growing population in the communities. With the rehabilitation project, the wards have been expanded with other facilities like DSTV, installation of electronic fans, and facelifting of the restrooms, among others. According to Honorable Lehadi Al-Hadi of Constituency 123, the project was in fulfillment of the campaign promised he made to the constituents, noting that the rehabilitation and expansion of the health center cost over 70 million leones. Honorable Hadi Al-Hadi, said he single-handedly funded the project and provided other facilities for the center. He underscored the importance of sound health, noting that access for better health was key in his development agenda. The health center, Honorable Hadi Al-Hadi went on, will help to reduce maternal and infant mortality in the two communities of Ginger Hall and Mount Orel, stressing the need for unity and called on his constituents to put all party politics aside and work for the development of constituency 1 through 3. Party stalwarts of the ruling SLPP, Al-Hussein Kamara, lauded Honorable Hadi Al-Hadi for complementing government's efforts in providing access to better health facility for the people of Ginger Hall and Mount Orel communities. He re-emphasized the need for unity and called on residents to put development first and not politics. Section Chief Pa Alimami Kuroma, the Lion, community stakeholders and the community health officer, Ginger Hall and Mount Orel Community Health Center, Emmanuel Sumaila, described Honorable Hadi Al-Hadi as a visionary leader who cares for his constituents. They said the rehabilitation of the health center was welcoming, stating that before the rehabilitation, patients, including pregnant women and lactating mothers, had abandoned the center due to its deplorable condition. Ibrahim Samara, Freita.
Meanwhile, residents of Constituency 132 have called for an urgent reconstruction of their roads and bridges that are in a state of disrepair. The call came as a result of the difficulties they face in accessing communities within their constituency. Jonathan Turner picks up the issue.
This is Vincent Drive at Lumley. There are about 2,000 people around here. This side of the community is Malama Extension and Kondi Farm at the other end. The potholes on the paved distance of the road are countless. Some of their depths are almost equal to Dot Graves' door.
This is the continuation of the road. As you can see, things become worse during the thick of the rainy season.
This vehicular way is not only terribly deplorable, there is a cutoff at the middle of the road. Both sides are only connected by this makeshift wooden bridge. Crossing becomes heavily terrifying during the rains, especially during heavy downpours for particularly the children. Those who could not endure the hazardous condition use the Kamayama route, which is more expensive and time-consuming. The residents are frustrated at their only available communal network of movements. Mary Yanda Songo and Elisha Leby are therefore calling on government for urgent intervention with an appropriately paved road and bridges in order to prevent unforeseeable disasters.
I feel scared because it's very risky for us. During rainy season, because this is the only bridge we have there, during rainy season we usually cross it. And when the rain comes, it becomes so heavy that it really hits the bridge. But even when people cross it there, it becomes very risky. They usually run for them not to fall inside. So we are begging of our government to please help us build a bridge for us at Vincent Drive.
So this is the main road that we are using to connect Malama actually. So we are calling on government to help us to make this road because people are stranding, more especially students. The time comes for them to go to school, they strand. So we are calling on the government to please assist us with this road.
But the Member of Parliament for Constituency 132, Honorable Ibrahim Tawakonte, covering the area, said contracts for the construction of feeder roads and bridges for most parts of Lumley have been awarded to the Senegalese construction firm CSC and Sikon Construction Company.
For them to start their work, and the project is expected to complete by March of 2021. So whatever suffering that the people of these communities are going through now, let them be assured that their MP has heard them. I have worked on it. I have paid keen attention. I have put pressure on the government. These bridges were not part of the priority in the cadre of the project, but because of the resilience of the member of parliament they have, because of the determination of the member of parliament they have, I have pushed, and these bridges have come at the top of the cadre, and the sites have been handed over formally. Monies have been paid already to the contractors to mobilize, but they cannot mobilize when it's raining. They have to set up their works yard, and one of the works yard is going to be set up at Sherry Drive. There's another works yard at Canningo, and likely another works yard to fit for the Magma extension, as you call it, recently at Conifer. There will be another works yard around that area. So more or less, I'm asking them to be patient for this last time. It's going to be the last struggle to cross over when it ends.
With this promise, the people could now breathe some sigh of relief. For SLBC News, Jonathan Turner reporting.
With funding from LEOSEM, Honorable Muniru Lansana of Constituency 121 has awarded scholarships worth over 100 million leones to over 50 students from the College of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences, Jala and Furabe College in his constituency. Here's a report.
Honorable Abdul Muniru Lansana has barely been in Parliament for 2 years, but he has already received wide praise from his constituents as the MP with the eye for development and youth empowerment. The Member of Parliament for Constituency 121 said empowering youths in his constituency was a strong pillar of his agenda, noting that youths are the future leaders and the best way to prepare them was to give them education and skills. Nearly 100 students applied for the scholarships. However, 52 made it through. And Honorable Muniru believed that those students are the deserved recipients.
We look at different criteria, one of which was you should be able to present document to us that you are coming from a recognized institution. And once the document were presented, we took them to the university to verify, to know indeed these documents are university documents. Once we were able to complete that, we called them for interview. Some could not come back because they knew the process we were doing was a stringent one and we are not playing with it at all.
The scholarships were funded jointly between LEOSEM and Honorable Abdul Muniru Lansana, and he noted that the awards were based on needs assessments and other criteria to make sure those mostly in need benefited. Andrew Chopele is a first-year student at the Mass Communication Department of Furabe College and one of the beneficiaries of the scholarships.
This will serve as another thing. I will make sure I go and settle my part payment. I'm having other issues to settle, which are my academic issues as well. I believe, though it's something minimal, but I'll use it.
The young generation leader in Kleintown, Muhammad Yeya, said the site of the multipurpose hall used to be a dumping ground until Honorable Muniru came and transformed it into a state-of-the-art center. He lauded the MP for his contribution to the community and urged his fellow constituents to use the hall wisely. Representative of the Minister of Youth, Muhammad Din, hailed Honorable Muniru as a champion of the youth in his constituency and urged the youths in Kanike and Kleintown to draw from Honorable Muniru's efforts in order to develop their capacity. Former Member of Parliament for Constituency 121, who is also the current Chief Technical Advisor in the Sierra Leone Parliament, Honorable Rosalind Jeretu Smith, said in spite of their political differences, Honorable Lansana had always supported her when she was Member of Parliament and she promised to reciprocate that partnership. She said several members of parliament attempted to build a multipurpose hall, but none of them was able to complete it. For SLBC News, Suri Ibrahim Kamara reporting.
A Sierra Leonean philanthropist, Becky Campbell, has administered free diabetic screening and drugs for diabetic patients in the western part of the city. Mama is so small.
Diabetes is a non-communicable disease which is designed by permanent sugar excess in the blood, and there has been an increase in the incidence of diabetes in the country. Doctors are concerned that in addition to Ebola, malaria and other diseases, diabetes is now taking center stage. Diabetes affects children and young people and commonly referred to as type 1 diabetes, with type 2 affecting mostly adults. As diabetes is becoming prevalent across the country, the reason Sierra Leonean philanthropist based in Canada, Rebecca Campbell, decided to come and administer free diabetes screening and drugs for vulnerable diabetic patients in the Western area.
They need to get the education just as I did. You don't have to go to school for it. It's a simple one. Eat more of vegetables. And it's good in Africa, like it's almost everything is organic. Almost everything is inorganic. It's so expensive.
Rebecca Campbell, who is also a nurse, explained the many symptoms of diabetes, such as thirst, frequent urinating, skin infections, thrush of the mouth, skin and genitals, weight loss, blurred vision, feeling of having a fuzzy head. As a chronic lifelong disease, once acquired, can lead to serious complications.
We usually say people with diabetes, like I said, they usually can get recurrent infections, so their immunity goes down, so they can get infected. So the small, and another thing is that because it affects the nerves as well, somebody with diabetes will walk along, will get a cut, will not even know about it. And as a result, they also have issues with healing. So when you get a small cut, it does not heal. And as a result, it progresses. And then for some people who are not so lucky, if it progresses to a point of
Rosalind Langley is a diabetes patient who has been suffering from the disease for the past 6 years. She explains more.
One day I became malaria.
I went for a walk one day and started feeling malaria. So I went to the hospital and got malaria treatment. After that, I started feeling thirsty frequently. Even if I drink enough water, I would still be thirsty, and I started urinating and sweating frequently. I decided to go to the hospital again for checkup. There, I was diagnosed with level of sugar in my blood cell. Since then, I am on insulin, and it has helped me a lot.
The organs most at risk are the eyes, leading to gradual blindness, kidneys leading to kidney failure, and hypertension, brain leading to stroke, toes and fingers which may result in amputation. This is why it is so important to identify the problem as early as possible to start treatment. Sierra Leone cannot afford to have an explosion of diabetes. It has far too many other problems to deal with. Sierra Leonean daily diets largely consist of imported Polish rice, which is contributing to the increase in diabetes too. The daily use of palm oil in cooking also makes for a deadly recipe. This Minister of Social Welfare, Bendu Dasama Kamara, reminded the gathering of President's bill request for people to invest in farming. She condemned most of the imported rice in the country, which has more carbohydrates. She, however, urged all Sierra Leoneans to avoid eating white rice and focus on the locally produced rice to avoid the disease. Diabetes medication is not cheap and it has to be taken daily. Insulin is injectable only and has to be stored in the fridge.
They are flowing. But I think now drugs we have so many options and drugs in the market, and because of that the prices are relatively cheap. But it is quite costly, especially if you need to go to insulin.
Country. The Sierra Leonean philanthropist Rebecca Campbell said the screening was really necessary as they tested patients who already have their sugar level very high to 20-21%, which she referred to as very risky.
The group, like high sugar group. Yes. To test your diabetic, that's when you do it at the lab, it's A1C. This one, when you have it, they teach you how to use it. So 5, you're not diabetic. 5, 6, 6, 5, you're on the borderline. 5.6. That's the one. I don't think that's the same system in London or I'm in Canada. And it's called One Touch Ultra, the one that the test tips that I'm using. So 5.6 right at 6, good. 6.5, you're in the limit. You don't need medication. You need to watch what you're eating. And then when you have like one of the patients 17, of course.
About 422 million people worldwide have diabetes, the majority living in low and middle income countries, and 1.6 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes each year. Both the number of cases and the prevalence of diabetes have been steadily increasing over the past few decades. For SLBC News, Maria Masuma reporting.
The Meteorological Agency was established by an act of Parliament to provide centralized climate and weather data for official interpretation by policymakers and the private sector. However, many independent agencies appear to be sourcing climate and weather data from other outlets not affiliated to the government agency responsible for that. The Meteorological Agency seeks to be empowered to be able to certify all climate and weather-related data being used in the country. Harold Williams spoke to the Public Relations Officer of the Sierra Leone Meteorological Society in this interview.
Since 2017, the Sierra Leone Meteorological Department was transformed by the House of Parliament in the form of a law that was passed, which may, transform it into an agency. And this agency is charged with the responsibility to advise government and, of course, other foreign bodies like the World Meteorological Agency on issues of weather, climate, and climate change. That said, it goes without saying that we are the only agency in this country that has the capacity and the technical know-how to be able to speak freely and be able to advise, freely on issues of weather and climate change. So in that regard, the institution operates several systems of forecasting, meaning predicting what is to happen, whether in the marine sector, in the agricultural sector, in the aviation sector, or even when it comes to ordinary activities that relate to weather. So every other day, 24 hours, the agency issues out what we call our daily weather forecast, which clearly tells the people of Sierra Leone, distributing it into 3 segments about what we expect during the day, like in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. For some other countries that we know about, like Ghana, Nigeria, what normally happens, they give, a free forecast every, like a sweeping forecast every day, cutting across the day. But in Sierra Leone, we decided to actually distribute it into segments so that people can prepare themselves and safeguard themselves, especially during, extreme weather conditions. Okay. So in this regard, coming to your question, we've also come to understand that, some other forms of weather forecasts, perhaps some other sources, mostly are given on a daily basis. So we are concerned as an agency that what we do at the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency is not a guesswork. We have diverse weather stations distributed across this country. Even before the war, we had, hundreds of them, but most of them were destroyed. But even after the war, the agency in its capacitation drive have actually been able to install several other, weather stations across the country that receives or records data on daily basis on rainfall, on temperature, on wind speed, wind direction, and wave height for those, that navigates the sea. And these information or data are being processed through a weather forecasting software that is at the agency, which at the end of the day, comes out in the form of forecast. So they are exact and correct, and we are asking for reliance. So we are concerned when we sometimes hear other weather, other people forecasting the weather, that mostly, one may want to ask, even from critics across the public space, what is the source of their information. But for us as an agency, we have diverse weather forecast stations distributed across this country, for which every other morning we give out daily forecast in several parts of the country that talks about the chances of rain, breaking them into percentages, telling about the atmosphere, the face of the sky, whether there's going to be thunderstorms, whether there's going to be wind. So we are concerned as an agency, and we are hoping that going forward, for now, what is key is that the agency is about to be brought under the Ministry of Environment. Of course, there are talks ongoing that has gone through cabinet, that of course when they establish it, it has been under the Ministry of Transport and Aviation, of course, for for strict reasons.
So why now has the agency come away from the Transport and Aviation Ministry?
Its operations was perhaps only limited to the airports to be able to control how planes comes down and then of course takes off. But for now, with the diverse weather stations and of course improvement within the confines of the agency, we now have diverse weather stations on marine, of course on agriculture, on of course now aviation, and even ordinary weather stations that will be able to tell you, Harold, that whether you have to go out today for camping or you have to go to the beach or you have to stay inside to read your book, because the data we collect and we record through our, of course, diverse weather stations are being processed through our forecasting software are exact. So as an institution, we are concerned and we are hoping that in the future we'll be able to build a collaborative action so that we have an harmonized information that could be very useful to the people of Sierra Leone.
The Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallow, together with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Nabila Tunis, and the Minister of Defense, Brigadier Retired Kelly Conte, has joined West African counterparts to urge the military insurgents in Mali to hand over power to the civilian government. They made the call at the just concluded virtual ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit of Heads of States and Government. Jonathan Turner reports.
Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallow supported the resolutions taken by ECOWAS Commission and other international blocs in resolving the Mali crisis peacefully and reaffirmed Sierra Leone's solidarity with the people of Mali during these trying times. The summit was pleased with the information of the release of both Malian Prime Minister and Speaker of Parliament by the junta. The summit was adjourned to 7th September 2020 when a physical session will be convened in Niamey, Republic of Niger, to further explore necessary avenues to resolve the said crisis. It could be recalled that the government of President Ibrahim Keita was recently toppled in a bloodless coup, earning the country sanctions from ECOWAS and other international organizations. The military junta in place requested for a 3-year term in office, after which it will return the country to a civilian rule. But the West African bloc ECOWAS has taken some key decisions, among which were the resignation of Ibrahim Keita as president of the Republic of Mali in order to minimize the crisis in Mali, and the formation of a transitional government to be headed by a civilian president and civilian prime minister who should not contest in the ensuing elections. The summit also resolved that the military should not be at the helm of affairs nor lead the transitional government. For SLBC News, Jonathan Turner reporting.
And now for some other stories making headlines in Africa. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa will appear before an integrity commission to answer to questions about a controversial campaign donation. This was according to his governing party officials. Senior members of the African National Congress, the ANC, Jesse Duarte, however, has not specified when Mr. Ramaphosa would present himself before the party panel. Mr. Ramaphosa, according to South Africa's anti-corruption watchdog, is alleged to have misled Parliament about money he received in 2017, worth more than $36,000. Mr. Ramaphosa maintains it was a donation towards his campaign for the ANC leadership. The historic peace agreement to end the 17-year war in Sudan, particularly in Darfur, where hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, was signed on Monday by Sudanese authorities and several rebel movements. The agreements were done in 2 stages at a ceremony in Juba, southern Sudan. First, the rebel movements in Darfur, where the war that began in 2003 left at least 300,000 people dead and 2,500,000 displaced in the first few years, according to the UN. The man whose only saving people from the 1994 genocide was celebrated in the film Hotel Rwanda is being held in Rwanda on terror charges. Paul Rusesabagina was arrested abroad where he had been living in exile. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau says he was arrested on an international warrant for forming and leading terrorist movements operating in the region. Mr. Rusesabagina, 66, was awarded the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, among other human rights awards. He has not commented on the current charges, but has long been a critic of the Rwanda government. It's now time for sports news.
Hello, this is Sports Update on the news with me, Francis Barnard. In today's edition, we bring you rugby, as the Sierra Leone Rugby Union has provided COVID-19 support to 12 rugby clubs in the Western area. The funds were made available for this exercise through their international partners, Rugby Africa, as a way of cushioning financial burden on clubs during this period of coronavirus across the world. 1.4 million euros was made available to each of the 12 clubs. Here is the report. Sporting activities across the world were put on hold due to the outbreak of coronavirus, and Sierra Leone not an exception. This, however, has created untold sufferings for people whose livelihood depends on sport, especially in third world countries like Sierra Leone. It is against this background that the Sierra Leone Rugby Union has provided financial support to rugby clubs in the country. These funds, according to the president of the union, Jeremiah Pratt, were made available through their partners, Rugby Africa, after they requested for their support. Club representatives, upon receiving the checks, thanked the union for their kind gesture during this period of COVID-19. The association also informed the media that the board, which was formed some time ago, was now dissolved, as it is against the ideas of sporting disciplines in the country. All executive positions were also declared vacant as the association is preparing for their next elections. Rugby is a full contact team sport that is based on running with the ball in hand. In its most common form, a game is played between two teams of 15 players each, using an oval-shaped ball on a rectangular field called a pitch. Even though it is a popular sport across the world, it is, however, a dormant one in Sierra Leone, with little or no knowledge about it amongst the populace. For SLBC News, Francis Barnard reporting. And now in the international scene, it's all about the corners, as Aubameyang's importance to Arsenal was once again shown in another impressive performance. The Gabon international, who scored twice in the FA Cup final in the same stadium this month, cut inside from the left and whipped the ball into the far corner in an emphatic style to open the scoring. He continued to terrorize Liverpool's defense when he stepped up to take the final penalty. With the score at 4-4 in the shootout, there was no way he was going to miss. He has netted 71 goals in 110 Arsenal appearances, and no Gunners player has scored more than his 5 goals at the venue. He has, however, not signed a new deal with Arsenal. Well, this is a concern for Arsenal supporters. Well, that's what we can offer in this edition of Sports Update on the News. Thanks for watching.
And he does score. And Arsenal add the Community Shield to the FA Cup they won only 4 weeks ago. And for the 16th time in Arsenal's history, they win this traditional curtain raiser to the new season.
Well, congratulations to Arsenal supporters. It's now time for entertainment news.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment News.
I am in black and white today because we continue to mourn the demise of one-time American Sierra Leonean actor Chadwick Aaron Boseman, who passed away on Friday 28th August after his 4-year struggle with colon cancer. The late Chadwick, who has been connected to Sierra Leone, died at age of 43. He was born and raised in Anderson, South Carolina in the USA to Caroline and Leon Boseman, both African Americans. DNA testing of the Black Panther star can be traced to his ancestral Creole and Limba ethnic groups from Sierra Leone. He was the lead cast in one of the most popular Black American movies titled Black Panther and the first Black superhero movie. I think this is what has generated the much sympathy from Sierra Leoneans. There have been several social media posts about his death, but most people had anticipated his visits to Sierra Leone like Idris Elba did last year. Well,
we must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe.
People, I am king of Wakanda. It is my responsibility to make sure our people are safe.
Well, now to the Big Brother Nigeria reality show. Brighto, Wathoni and Tolanibaj have been evicted from the Big Brother house, leaving only 11 housemates to roll through the remaining 29 days of the TV reality show. Anyways, let's continue with our biography check. But on the newly evicted housemate, this time, Brighto Ezekiel Nyondiami is just 29 years old from Edo State and holds a degree in marine engineering from Ara Academy for Science and Technology and Maritime Transport in Alexandria in Egypt. He is the youngest of 6 children and still single. His best friends while in the house, Florence Wathoni Ayesi, who was a fashion businesswoman and a single mom, is also 29 years old. Wathoni is a graduate of sociology from the University of Lagos, but she was born in Kenya by a Nigerian father and a Kenyan mother and lived 13 years of her life in the East African country. She, like Brighto, is also single. 2 years younger but physically looking older than them is Tolanibaj Subajo, a media personality that was born in the United States and later moved to Nigeria in 2018 to start a career in showbiz. The single lady is the CEO of 234 Next Generation Modeling Company. Well, that's all we have time for. I am Cynthia Kamang. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye.
And now to a recap of the main points. The Law Department of Furabe College has launched its first internal moot court competition. The competition, which will be based on African human and people's rights, contributes to the participants' intellectual and professional journey. The technical pillar head of Dikovac Kono has said Active Case Surge will engage on massive screening and testing ahead of the launch of Active Case Surge across the 14 chiefdoms in Kono district. The Kono Dikovac has engaged religious leaders, international organizations, civil society representatives and other community stakeholders. And the Freetown City Council, the Freetown City Administrative Complex CAPAC, is hoped to decongest beginner traffic in the Central Business District. Road traffic congestion is that part. In that part has been a significant hindrance to especially economic activities. Well, that's all in this SLBC News Hour with me, Kojo Kwafo. Thanks for your time. Good night and stay safe.